you with it, drop it.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we're joined by the ECW original. He's managed, he's worked it, he's felt the chair shots. Welcome to the show, Jack Victory. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. So, man, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being responding to Bill. Like I said, I appreciate that. You are the guy that's going to answer the questions tonight. You are the guy that's going to give me my self-care, and I'm going to love it, and we're going to be going good. So I got to ask the same question I asked everybody at the beginning of the show. As a kid growing up, were you a wrestling fan? And tell me about your favorite superstars that you idolized, if that was the case.
Oh, God. Huge wrestling mark when I was growing up. I mean, I lived, I'm from New Jersey. I was born and raised up there. So, we really only got, WWF when I was growing up. So, Snuka, Chief J. Strombo, Haystacks, Andre was in his prime. So, the Samoans, Bruno was there. So it was quite an experience growing up with that type of wrestling. I still remember, I talk to Larry Zbyszko every once in a while when we're doing conventions and stuff like that. And when he turned on Bruno that day, and I still have nightmares about that day.
Nice. Bill.
Did a little research earlier. You had a good Buddy Rogers story, I heard.
Well, he was actually in my movement of actually getting my first job with Watts. I tell a lot of people this story, but right out of high school, I started wrestling in Easton, Pennsylvania, with DC Drake. Eddie Miranda was there. Ted Petty was there. Before Ted Petty, started working the mask gimmick and stuff like that. And then, later on doing the other gimmicks. But anyway, my dad worked for Jersey Central Power and Light, which was a powering company in New Jersey. And he pretty much traveled the whole state of New Jersey. So Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, he lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And my dad stumbled onto him one day, and, he mentioned that, my son wrestles in a local promotion, blah, 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 blah. And Buddy, out of the blue, said, well, bring him over one day. About 2 weeks later, me and my dad go to Cherry Hill and bang on his door, and he let us in, and, he couldn't have been the nicest person, and, back then, this, we're talking in the 80s, 82, I graduated high school in 82. So it had to be 82, 83. We had VHS tapes. We didn't have all this fancy crap we have today, so, he brought us into the house. Really, really, really nice house. I remember really nice house in Cherry Hill. And we just sat down and bullshitted for a while. And, obviously I said, how does a guy like me, or a kid like me, break into wrestling? And he says, you gotta videotape every match that you're in. And basically that's what I did. I had my girlfriend at the time, follow me around to all these little independent shows, taping my matches. And I would I sent them out to all these different promoters, Florida Championship Wrestling, Mid-South Sports. The list goes on to where I said it. But one day I got the phone Do you hear that?
I heard it. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. Are we good now?
We're good.
All right.
Calm down a little bit.
Come on, Bill. Come down, man.
Yeah,
Get those action figures behind you. Give them a rest, man.
Yeah. Put the customs down for a minute.
So anyway, one day out of the blue, Bill Dundee calls me, and he goes, "We're pretty impressed with your tapes. We would love to fly you down here and give us a tryout." So I flew down. It was a double shot because Bill Watts, if you ever worked his territory, I'm sure you guys heard horror stories. You worked 8 shows a week, double shots on the weekends and stuff like that. So they flew me down there on the weekend. My first match was in Houston against, oh God, that will come back to me in a minute. Anyway, then we did a double shot. It was Houston and somewhere in Oklahoma. That's how far the double shots were for that psycho. Sonny King was my first ever match in back in the day. And I wrestled 2 shows from Houston to the Oklahoma show. I rode with Butch Reed and Hercules Hernandez.
Okay.
They, everybody there was really, really nice. I'm 18 years old. Green as green can be. Looking at guys that I idolized. All my life. So it was pretty cool. I was a mark / wannabe wrestler, and they all, getting back to me trying out and all that. So they flew me in. I wrestled 2 matches. They flew me home, and I didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks, and I was like, yeah, I guess I blew it. And then out of the blue, Bill Dundee calls me again, and he goes, this is your starting date. You need to be here. You need to be here on this date. So I was like, holy crap. Okay. So I packed all my shit. I had a van. I had a bed in the back. I didn't know that bed would be used hundreds of times in that territory, but it was a great thing to have a van with a bed, especially in Mid-South Sports. Anyway, getting back to that, the first thing Bill did was change my name. He gave me my name, Jack Victory, and it's stuck ever since. I was 37 gimmicks, but it was always around Jack Victory. You know what I mean? Secret Service, Rip, and the only time I actually didn't wrestle under Jack Victory is when the Russian Assassin 2 appeared in WCW. So, yep.
So you worked all these small indie promotions in the territories and all that stuff, and you had all that hands-on training and day-to-day, day in and day out, 8 shows in a week. How did that prepare you for the bigger promotions like WCW, ECW, WWF? How did that prepare you for those?
Well, I mean, like I said, when I started, I was green. I was not that good. Did I improve really quick? Yeah, but you gotta figure Ted DiBiase was there. All these major talented people were there, and they would come and watch my match and tell me what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. And when I first broke in, Shawn Michaels broke in exactly the same time as I broke in. He was a young kid just like me, and we probably wrestled each other. You know, there was no internet back then, so we went from town to town to town to town wrestling the same friggin' match over and over and over and I'm like, I'm so friggin' bored with this match. But we taught each other, we learned from each other, and wrestling 8 shows a week, you really learn how to wrestle pretty fast. You know, we didn't really have schools back then like they do now. You know, look at the performance center. You know, there's 80, 90 kids in the performance center that has better rings, better everything than we had way back then. You know.
Right.
All right, Bill.
So back in the territory days, you had some run-ins with the Bon Erics and the Freebirds, correct?
That is correct. Yep. The Freebirds, not so much wrestling wise, but they love to play ribs, man, and they got me with one of the best ribs that, you know, to me it was a great rib. I didn't like it at the time, but it was a great rib. When you move from territory to territory, you know, back then, you know, you don't have no fancy moving companies. You moved yourself. You know, it was the U-Haul. You packed your shit and you went to the next territory. You know, so Dusty called me to come in to WCW as the Russian Assassin #2, and I was in world class at the time, and you know, you pack all your crap, you load everything up, all the boys come over, you know, drink a couple beers, blah, 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 see you later, kiss my ass, and you go. So I drove to Atlanta. I was married at the time. Yeah, I think I was still married at the time. Went to Atlanta, didn't really find a place. My starting date was like two weeks out, so I just wanted to come to Atlanta, get a feel of the area and stuff like that, and find out where I was going to live. You know, Atlanta was a big ass place. You know, so much traffic. So I talked to some of the boys. They told me you got to go to Marietta. So I moved to Marietta, Georgia, and I got a townhouse in Marietta, and this is about 3 weeks after I shut the doors. So I pop the door open, and I get this whiff of somebody's dead in my car, in my U-Haul, and I was like, "What in the F is this, man?" And I'm looking around. I'm like, did the Freebirds throw a dead animal in here? You know, but no, it was even worse than that. So I don't know if it was Michael or Buddy Roberts, but one of them used the bathroom in one of my wrestling boots.
Oh no!
And when I say bathroom, I don't mean piss.
Nice.
So
I mean, hey,
that was quite a smelly rib.
yeah, it was. That's probably stunk, huh?
So just think of that boot in the back of your U-Haul, you know, for just yeah. So those boots went bye. Those boots didn't even, you know, survive.
Nice.
So thank you, Michael P.S. Hayes. You.
I was going to ask for one with an autograph on it. That's what I was going to ask for. But yeah, I guess that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you hung out. Well, you got the opportunity to hang out with probably one of the biggest stars in current wrestling, in the management business, Paul Heyman. You were part of the Dangerous Alliance with Paulie Dangerously, right?
He was my manager. Yeah, I love Paul. You know, Paul is a great guy. You know, Paul is the definite. You love him or you hate him. You know, there's no really middle of the road with Paul. You know, it's like, oh, he's okay. No, you love him or you hate him. But he's always treated me, treated me well. Um, Great dude. He was my manager when I was Secret Service Jack Victory, and I was with the Dangerous Alliance. He came up with that Secret Service gimmick for me and all that stuff. So yeah, yep. Back then, you don't ever say no when they come up with a new gimmick because it's another year or two of payment, payday.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it's like
So,
keep going, keep it going, keep it going.
so when you were with him, did you see the potential that he is at right now? Did you see that when working with him at the time?
Oh, he was always a mastermind to the sports, and the mic work is top five in top five people in the whole world. I think I mean he comes up with some great promos and very very great mind for the business.
So before we go any further with this interview, I gotta notice that you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. It must be, right?
Yeah, I live in Daytona Beach, but I lived in Jacksonville for my first 10 years in Florida. So we got to, we had season tickets.
Okay.
I never knew the Sun was going to buy AEW, you know what I mean? Or I would have stayed up there, but I live in Daytona Beach.
Okay.
I'm still a Jaguars fan.
All right. Yeah, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so no one likes us. So I have to root for somebody that they like. So I'll root for the Jaguars.
Is that where you're based out of, Detroit?
Well, no, I'm based out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Oh, so you're from Florida too? Yeah.
Yeah, I was originally from Michigan, so I'm a big Michigan fan, big Detroit Lions fan. I lived, I'm 55, so I lived 45 years in Michigan. So
Okay.
Michigan, I'm a Michigan boy through and through.
Bill, where are you at, Bill?
I'm up in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Boston.
Cold up there yet?
Oh yeah. Gotta get the wood stove going pretty soon.
Very cool.
Bill, you got anything, man?
So you mentioned some of your gimmicks. What's one of your best gimmicks you loved?
I loved working with Rip Morgan. I loved our with Lord Littlebrook. I loved the Royal Family gimmick. That was unfortunately WCW was going through so much bullshit when they bought the place. These corporate people came in and they thought they were, wrestling, corporate people, and they really just sucked ass. You know what I mean? So that gimmick never got the push that it should have been. Because Lord Littlebrook as our manager was a great gimmick.
And what would you say was one of your worst gimmicks?
Oh God, worst gimmicks. That's a great. I've never been asked that, but I don't know. I love them all in a certain way. You know what I mean? There was none of my gimmicks. I never showed up to the locker room in a pissed off mood. You know what I mean? So they were all different challenges. So
At least you weren't the big rooster, that's for sure.
yeah. I wasn't. Talking to Terry, he I guess I was around 19. No, I think I was 20. We were wrestling in. All my injuries happened in New Orleans. When I was 20 years old, we were wrestling for Mid-South Sports, and I was wrestling with Terry on the outside of the ring. We were fighting out there, and Watts used to have these metal, like really, really heavy guardrails around the place, but they moved. They were all tongue and groove type things. They all hooked together around, made it, but they moved. And when you're fighting and you're getting thrown into those guardrails, they'll move, you know. So we're fighting out there, and he takes me and he throws my head into the guardrail. Well, this friggin' Mark kicked it when I'm headed this way, and he kicked it, and he blew my teeth out. I lost 7 teeth like that. Half of the 7 were just hanging, and then you know, it was a big mess. It was very painful. So we lived in Baton Rouge. So Grizzly Smith, he knew a dentist, and the dentist met me at his office. Like, you know, I think we got back from the show maybe midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in pain, man. I am in total pain. So this dentist fixed me up, got me some new choppers and all that crap. That cost me about $5,000. So yeah, that was an expensive match. And you know, Watts was a cheap bastard back then. You know, you get hurt, you pay for your own shit. You know, you're a private contractor back then. You know, now everybody's got fancy buses and fancy dental plans and all this crap. Not back then.
Nope.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I often think about, because I hear our focus is on the legends and the indie guys rising up, you know, and
Right.
sometimes if we're lucky, we'll get a current wrestler on here from, like, you know, I've had Austin Aries on here, you know, so he's not really current, but you know, back. Right. But I hear stories. I had Eric Watts on the show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He'll tell you stories about how tough his dad was.
Ooh, he was a yeah.
And how different it was back there, where you guys all pile up in a Suburban or whatever. You're not these fancy ass buses. These kids nowadays, they don't know what it's like.
They have no clue, man.
To be a professional wrestler, right?
I couldn't to today's standards. I can't remember shit. You know, they'll go and put together a 20, 30-minute match in the back to where it's like boom, boom, boom. I don't remember that shit. We used to call the match in the ring. You know what I mean? I can't remember a 30-minute match. I don't even remember my name half the damn time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, what building are we in? You know, it's like, are you kidding me? You want me to remember a 30-minute match? Kiss my big ass. No, I'll call it in the ring.
Right. So, ECW guy, right? So I have to ask this question. You were around a lot of chair shots. So what, in your opinion, would hurt more? A chair shot or stepping on Legos?
A chair shot from Balls Mahoney.
All right.
He will hit you with a chair shot and you'll feel it right out of your butthole. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it will gyrate your body until your body's gyrating. I mean, God rest his soul. He was a great dude. But man, he can lay in them chair shots. Ask Steve Carino one day when you see him. You know, Stevie took some chair shots from Balls that I was like, holy crap, you know. If you hit me like that, I'm going to shoot you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of chair shot.
So was there a lot of shoot work going on back in the territory days, ECW days? Or
did you say a shoots?
Shoot, like a lot in the matches. Were those a lot of the times did those turn into shoot matches?
Not really, believe it or not. You know, we all pretty much got along very well. I mean, it was a really, really great territory. You know, to end my career there, I was definitely blessed. You know, when Paulie and Tommy Dreamer invited me to come back out of retirement and join those crazy asses, you know what I mean? So it was a great time. But not too many shoots. You know, everybody got along pretty well. You know, New Jack was a little crazy. You know, before I got there, you know, he was that close to killing maybe 2 or 3 people, you know. But anyway, You know, when I got there, I was the old prick in the dressing room, so they took care of me pretty good.
So you teamed up with Jake Roberts at some point in time. What
Mm.
was it like working with Jake the Snake, and what did you learn from him?
Well, yeah. Believe it or not, I only wrestled 57 seconds into that match. That was also in New Orleans, and that was also when I broke my knee. That was a shoot. I was with Jake, and we were wrestling Tommy Dreamer. And do you remember who it was? I don't remember the opponent. Anyway, Tommy threw me over to the top ropes. I slipped off, fell wrong. I mean, my knee compressed and blew the back of my knee joint out in 7 places. So I was basically done 57 seconds into that friggin' match. So that didn't, me and Jake as a tag team. No, I think it was Tommy and Jake. I think it was me and Justin Credible.
It was.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
I think me and Justin.
Yeah, Justin Credible. You and Justin Credible teamed up against Jake the Snake and Tommy Dreamer.
Correct.
1998 at ECW, November to Remember.
In New Orleans, and
yeah.
My knee out, because I remember I think it was Justin Knight rolled in and worked the match for me. I think.
Oh, Jason, yeah.
Right? I think that's what
I believe it was.
Yep.
And getting back to somebody, I don't know if you're the people who are watching this ever been to New Orleans, but somebody put a voodoo crap on me down there, because every time I go there, I get hurt. That damn Bourbon Street. Is that you or me?
Not me.
That's Billy. It's Billy Boy.
Billy with his new
I'm not doing nothing.
With his new headphones.
That's weird.
He got fancy on me. Bill, you got something?
Yeah. So working back in the day, being a heel, how was being a heel back then versus later on in your career?
Well, I don't know if many marks know this, but the heels called the matches back then. So not only did you have to study and figure out, what the hell you're going to be doing out there, but it was an art back then. It was, you never going back to, putting together a 35-minute match in the back and then going out there and perform it. I couldn't do that shit today. I just couldn't do it. We were born and raised, when I was a young pup, we called the match, the heels called the match. You got to finish, and then you put together the match. So it was fun. Being a heel back then was great. Bill Watts made you live a heel. If you went to a restaurant and there was a table of baby faces in the restaurant already, you had to turn around and leave.
Really?
Oh yeah. And if you get caught in the restaurant with baby faces and heels, you're going to get fined or you're going to get fired.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
He protected the business. He might have been a prick, but he did protect the business. And we've had many bar fights. Once again, I had really like 2 or 3 bar fights in New Orleans. I swear I'm cursed down there. But anyway, if you lost the bar fight, he would fire you.
Wow.
Yeah. So you better, if you're going to fight in a bar, you better win. Watch. Yep. So.
Wow, man. So UWF with Missy Hyatt and John Tatum. What was that experience like for you?
In the beginning, it was fantastic, and then Missy got a little free with I'll keep it clean, starting to throw that crap around, and we had it going pretty good, and then the Eddie Gilbert stuff happened, and then a lot of people don't know Johnny got in a really bad head-on collision, and that pretty much put us done, and that was in Louisiana too. He trying to pass an 18-wheeler, and he he tried to pass an 18-wheeler and got into a head-on collision, and he was cut out of the trunk of the car. That's how bad. Yeah, he was in Shreveport for months. His girlfriend at the time. She got really bad hurt too. So, yeah, that's what put the end of me and Hollywood together. Missy went on her way with Eddie and stuff like that, but it all worked out at the end.
Yeah. Bill?
How do you feel the locker room changed from like the 80s into the 90s and the early 2000s?
It was, when the 80s, like I said, the 80s were with Bill Watts. The 80s were, total kayfabe. To the 90s, it started. It started to get a little bit of loose. Where you can go and hang out with baby faces and heels together and stuff like that. So. I was always a big guy to kayfabe when you're out in public and stuff like that. But now, shit, they do videos together, and go out and wrestle each other.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So at the final ECW show, you defeated CW Anderson on January 20 of 2001.
Right.
What was the mood like backstage that night, and did you have any indication that you would be the end? That it would be the end?
Well, I did. Me personally, I did, because I was in the office working behind the scenes. Me and Louis Dangerously, we were doing promotion work for the promotion and stuff like that. So we pretty much got the Iggy that it was happening.
So what was that match like? You're wrestling against CW Anderson.
Well, he's a stiff bastard, and we always kid. He's one of one of the guys that I stay in contact with. Him and Old School. We're pretty much, we traveled together in ECW, and we still hang out together. So it's been 25 years since we went up and down on the roads and stuff like that, but we still get together and hang out.
He was my absolute first ever guest on the podcast.
Oh, really?
4 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a very memorable, very inexperienced Scott Rogers, me trying to put on a podcast, and we had to do it we had to restart 3 times. It was ridiculous. I was so nervous, but I talked to him since, man. That guy, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And, I went to his wedding, which was a couple years ago in North Carolina and stuff like that. So that just proves that we still love each other. Yeah. And we still hang out. They go to Disney a lot. So I think we're going to get together in December and hang out. And Okay. Yep.
Bill.
You mentioned your time with Old School. How was working with Dusty Rhodes?
Oh my God! Getting back to basically your first question about wrestlers who I looked up to back then, and he was on top of the pedestal. Dusty Rhodes. When I was a young pup, I used to go to Florida to my aunt's house in the summertime. And Dusty would always be down in Florida in World Championship Wrestling. And we'd always me and my cousin Eugene would get the front row at the West Palm Beach Auditorium. The tickets, people laugh at this, but our front row tickets were $7. I remember it like it was yesterday, and you know they would feed Ernie Ladd. They would feed all these wrestlers to Dusty and everything, and what a great territory back then, Florida Championship Wrestling. Never got to that territory, but I sure did watch it when I was young. But Dusty, he's the man. In my books, he's the man.
Awesome. I'm gonna do a short plug real quick. You're ECW guys, so I follow this promotion here in the Panhandle of Florida called XIW,
Okay.
Extreme Impact Wrestling, and they'll say on their Facebook page they follow they try to do what ECW did back in the day. These are these guys right here. They have a battle royal October 18th. You got Suge White, Damian Wayne, Bubba Shattuck, Salazar, all these guys on this picture, plus more. October 18th, doors open at 4, bell time at 5. Anybody in the Panhandle, anybody in Panama City, I encourage you guys to watch this. These guys are phenomenal. I will have it live on the podcast on this Saturday. So, but yeah, Damian Wayne is one of the guys that got me into indie wrestling and stuff like that. He's, John Saxon, Jackson Slade, Adrian Whisper, those guys. So I wanted to give them their props because they do a very good job. It's extreme and it's pretty cool. So
what how often do they run?
once every other month.
Once every other month. I might try to come over there because I have friends over in that area. Invite me next time. Give me,
all right, yeah,
give me 4 weeks in advance. I would love to come and check it out.
Their biggest event is in December. Their last event of the year. It's Chaos in the Cage. Okay. Every belt, every title is put up that night inside a steel cage.
Oh, nice.
So I'll definitely let you know the date of that December trip. And man, I'd love to. Maybe we could do a live in person thing. So
yeah, that would be great. Yeah, let me know.
I will. So what's the biggest difference? No, he just asked that. So go ahead, Bill. I gotta gather my thoughts here.
I was talking to Jacko earlier. He mentioned the Russian Assassin 2's got an appearance coming up on October 25th. What do you got on that, Jack?
We are doing one of my really good friends, not from the wrestling business, but Nick, he does live signings and stuff like that. Captain's Corner Wrestling. I don't know if you guys heard of him or
is that Nick Vick?
Nicky is a great dude, and we've done a lot of virtual signings and stuff like that. But he came up with the idea that Russian Assassin #2 has never signed ever, and he came up with that gimmick. Why don't you get a hold of him, Jacko, and see if the Russian Assassin would do a signing? So we're gonna do it in Lutz, Florida, which is in Tampa area, and they do a thing called Glory Days, and DiBiase's gonna be there, a bunch of Missy's gonna be there, a lot of people are gonna be there, which it's great to go and hang out with the boys and shoot the shit and sign a little bit of autographs and yeah. And I also put together I have a driving school now, Victory Driving Academy.
Yeah.
And right out of that grew to I started a nonprofit, My First Keys, and we help kids get their driver's license, teach them how to drive and all that stuff, pretty much free to them. And the Russian Assassins, he's going to be there signing autographs, and everything that he makes that day goes to that nonprofit, My First Keys, helping kids. It's expensive to get driving school. It's very expensive, private lessons and stuff like that. I mean, so we try to even the playing field for some kids.
Nice. So you're the Russian assassin. You ever went up against the Cuban assassin for Dulcera?
I know the Cuban assassin. We used to run up and down the roads in Mid South. Yeah,
Okay, all right,
good
guy,
guy.
man. Yeah, very good
Very
guy.
good
So,
guy.
out of all the years in the business, who is that one opponent that you look forward to the most to wrestle?
Ooh, that's a really good one because there's, you know, there is so much friggin' talent out there. Wow. I you know we were never able to beat them, but me and Rip used to love wrestling the Road Warriors
Yes.
back in the day. You know, we always knew that we were in for a pretty good fight, um, but it was always fun. You know, it was always fun wrestling them guys.
All right. So what? Talk you. So you were obviously wrestled at the 2300 arena.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What is that atmosphere? I've never been there. I want to get there to see it, but tell us about that experience.
Well, when we were there, it used to be a little hellhole. You know what I mean? They made it look a little prettier now. You know what
Oh,
I
okay.
mean? But the atmosphere was really cool. You know, and you know I always liked going there because Pat's cheesesteaks was right around the corner. So that's the only reason Jacko went there is to go get me a cheesesteak.
All right. All right. So Chubby Dudley, do you know that guy?
Yeah, yeah.
He was on the show too. So how was that experience? All the Dudleys and
All the Dudleys. That was they're great. Me and Devon, we ran up and down the roads. You know, it was me, Devon, Louis, and Old School, and CW. We were the ones that rode together. You know, 99% of the time we had a blast. You know, it was a great territory.
nice, nice. Bill.
So when they pulled you back into ECW for the last run, what was that like for you to have an invite to come back?
You know, I never when I went to the show in Marietta, Georgia. They wrestled in the convention center. I really, when I got out of the business, I really never looked back. I was doing my own thing. I was quite happy what I was doing, what I was about to do. But once you're in the business, you always get, the itch to go back, So I went to the ECW show in Marietta, Georgia, just to say hello to Paul E. Basically, because I didn't really know anybody else until I got there, and then got to meet all the boys and stuff like that. Because I never wrestled with any of those guys. You know, they were all pretty much new to me. So Paul and Tommy were pretty much the bookers, there. And Tommy, he's such a cool dude. He goes, I remember watching you doing this and doing that. And he goes, I would really love to see you do that live and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we talked for a while and they go, we can do this and do this and do this. You want to come back? And I said, shit. Okay. It didn't take much to twist my arm. So, I actually moved back to Jersey because we were based out of that area. You know what I mean? And I haven't been back to Jersey in years and years and years. So it was pretty cool to go back and see my high school friends and crap like that. And I lived, me and Balls Mahoney, we grew up right on the Jersey Shore. So he was he was the man that I got in trouble with when we weren't working. We would hit the bars and raise hell, and I would keep him out of jail 90% of the time. So we had fun, man. It was a great territory.
Awesome. I had to stop and tell you, man, I'm really impressed with the fact that you give back to the community with your driving school. I love
Well,
hearing
thank you.
about those things. That's pretty cool to hear that wrestlers that gave us
Hmm.
the fun, gave us our entertainment, are also now giving back after they're done in the ring. That means a lot to me as a foster parent because we deal with a lot of teenagers in our houses too, and they get to the 17 years old. We have up here in the Panhandle Keys to Independence where they learn how to drive and stuff like that.
Oh
But
yes, I heard of that. I heard about that place. Yeah.
yeah, so I love the fact that I hear that we're talking to you about you started up a driving school for
Right.
that's cool. So we've heard about Russian Assassin number 2. We heard about Jack. You now talk to us about Blackmailer and the Terrorist at NWA and WCW. Let's hear about those guys.
That was just another way of those bastards having you wrestle and not paying another dude. Yeah, I mean, I remember wrestling Doctor Death, Steve Williams. It was in Troy, New York, I think. Um, and he tells me, he told me I didn't tell him to duck, and I told him to duck a clothesline, and he didn't hear me say duck a clothesline, and I broke his nose, like boom, like I laid it in and broke his nose in that match, and things happen, but it
Yeah,
was that was a very they would carry. I never even carried that suit with me. They would, the ring crew would carry that suit, and if they needed an extra dude to wrestle a match, it would be like Jack, put on the blackmail, put this gimmick on, So it wasn't really it wasn't a permanent position. It was, oh, this guy's in jail. Can you work instead of him? That type of thing.
gotcha. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Was that a Bill Watts thing?
It that that was a Bill. I mean, that is a Bill Watts thing, but um, it was WCW taking Bill Watts's crap and running with it.
Yeah. So, Bill, you got anything?
So you've been in the ring with a bunch of legends. You got any Undertaker stories?
No, I've never. I have a couple when he came to the bar that I was managing after I got out of wrestling, but that I don't have any really wrestling stories. But that's a whole different podcast. You know.
All right. So, any advice for the new generation? What's the biggest difference between the industry today when you broke in? And is there any advice that you could tell these new guys, girls breaking into business, what to expect, what not to do?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it is so different now. It is so different. You know, they roll in thinking, I'm Mr. Joe Schmo, you know what I mean? And there is absolutely no respect for veterans and stuff like that anymore. And I hate to see that. Um, so my advice to the young pups is be humble. Don't be afraid to go up and if there's an old timer in the dressing room, put them over. Introduce yourself. Nowadays you don't see much of that. You don't see. You know, when I was 18, I dropped my bags and I made sure I went around the whole locker room and and said, "How you doing? Thanks for what you do for the business and stuff like that." So I don't see that anymore. I would love to see it a little bit, to the young pups coming in. Um, so many great schools, out there. Learn your art, and it's an awesome ride.
So talk to us about the WCCW Television Championship that you won in 1985 in December.
Oh God. Um, I don't remember it much, to be honest with you. I don't remember, um, you know, yeah, I don't remember that match very much, to be honest
So
with you.
how did it feel to become a champion, I guess?
Well, that was my first belt, so it was pretty cool. You know, I loved winning. Um, uh, Mid South Sports Champions with Hollywood. You know, that was a great accomplishment and stuff like that. The Texas Heavyweight Championship. I defended that in Texas Stadium, which was pretty cool. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of really fond memories. It wasn't to me. It wasn't ever about belts or anything like that. It was just, could I go out there and call a great match and get reaction from the fans? That was, that was my championship belt. Putting together a great match.
Have you had any experience over in Mexico, any foreign lands?
I went to Mexico a couple times. Went to Japan a couple times. Um, you know, uh, I love Japan a lot better than Mexico.
All right.
Eating at Denny's every day because they had an American menu was not fun. It was they're passionate people. Don't get me wrong, passionate people in Mexico. They love their wrestling. Me personally, I just didn't get it. I didn't get the 2 out of 3 falls crap and stuff like that. So we really didn't. We really didn't have a great experience in Mexico, but in Japan it was fun. Japan was pretty cool.
Okay. Bill, you done? I got some kid questions if Bill's done.
Yeah, you got the floor. Take it.
All right, so of course I'm foster kid parent. My kids they ask me what I do on when I leave the area. They say, "Can we ask some questions?" And I shot off the top of my head as I was walking in the door. So what do you think about pineapple on pizza?
Hell no.
Okay, they have to read every day. So what's your favorite book?
Oh God. My. Ooh, you're asking of somebody who hated school. Um, hmm. Ooh, I don't have a famous. I don't have a favorite book. Sorry.
Okay. I have a teenager that wants to know: have you went through the drive-through at McDonald's and cut a promo while you're ordering your food?
Oh no, but I will tape it tomorrow and send it to you.
Please do. Now they'd love to hear it. They would love to
Please
see it.
do.
I hope your kids weren't around when I was cussing.
No, they're not. I'm
Okay,
back.
good.
I'm back in my office. Yeah. So.
All right, not too many people know this, but I'm fostering 3 kids right now.
Really?
Yeah,
My hat goes off. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
handful, but they're great kids.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your top 3 wrestlers? I don't know why they asked me 3. I told them the Mount Rushmore is 4, but they want to know 3.
Well, Dusty is on the top of my Mount Rushmore for sure. Oh God, Flair. Now we're talking when I was wrestling, the people that I
Yeah.
encountered and all that stuff, because Lord, I can rattle off 50 people that were
Right.
incredible in all different ways. You know what I mean? But I used to go and watch Flair's matches with Steamboat. When they did an hour draw. Night after night after night, and I'm like, my God! What a talented person he is. And so Dusty Flair, wow. I got to put a heel in there. I mean, even though Flair was pretty much a heel his whole career, but he wasn't really the heel. You know what I mean? Wow. Huh. I want to say as a big man, because he took me under his wing when I first broke into Mid South, but I love the big cat Ernie Ladd. You know, he was one of 6'9", just a huge, I mean, just a huge man, and you know, he let me ride with him my first 2 years and taught me so much. So I got to put him in my third spot.
So what was the so in the midst of you guys get to the arena, you're in the back room. Is there any weird, crazy rituals that you experienced from other wrestlers before a show happened?
Not. It was always you always had to keep your eyes on the Freebirds when they came in.
Okay.
And Buddy was a character, man. And one time in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Buddy, when I tell you this is the truth. He didn't bring luggage with him. You know, he would wear his clothes, have his boots in like a bag, and go to the show. Wrestle, take his wrestling trunks out, wash them in the sink, blah blah blah. Go to the next show. So one day in Baton Rouge, he rolls in with this luggage, and everybody's like, he don't ever carry luggage. So he went into the middle of the room, unzipped this thing, and had a roadkill possum in it, dead with maggots.
Wow.
So
you talk about the boys running and puking because it was nasty. It was nasty. But yeah, I mean, they were a trip, man. The Freebirds, they lived their gimmick, man. They were some crazy boys.
So we heard you talk about the Freebirds. We heard you. So one of our guys that are listening on the through YouTube. Thank you, Dan, for coming on the show. He wants to know, what's your favorite prank or stunt that you've done to another wrestler? Come on, I know you must have done something. That's a good question.
Oh, I remember somebody pissed me off. I'm trying to remember who it was, but the show was over, and there was that crane that would take you to the rafters. Up in the rafters, it was like the little crane and stuff like that. I remember grabbing his bag, going in that crane, going all the way to the top of the guardrail, and locking his bag up to the up in the ceiling where the lights are, and coming back down. I forget who I did that on. It was a rib, plus I really didn't like the guy, and if you ask a lot of people, if I don't like you, you have to be a real prick. You know what I mean? So that was, I didn't do really many gimmicks. I joked around a lot, but I really didn't do gimmicks.
Okay. Perfect. So was there ever a time in the middle of the ring that you guys are doing your match and whatever, and that something happened, whether I don't care what it was, that you broke character and you were like, oh shit?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I asked that question because I think about 3 weeks ago, the Usos were in the ring and Reigns was in the ring, and something was said, and you seen Jimmy go like this. You could definitely see that he's laughing his ass off. I can't remember what it was, but he broke character. So I was just asking, I wonder, does that happen quite often in the business?
I don't think so, especially when it's a TV program like that. But I heard up there that that's what they try to do to each other up there.
Yeah.
Is trying to make the other person laugh. So it sounds right, Yeah.
My last question before I let you close the show, man. I like to let the guests close the show with telling us where they're from, what they have coming up, what they got, where people can find their merch, etc. I have to ask you, one of my favorite wrestlers back in those days was Raven.
Okay.
Have you had any experiences with him?
I have. You know, we loved going to the bars together. And yeah, he was a great dude. Yeah, we had some good times together.
All right. So, huge Pop Entertainment fans, wrestling fans, whoever's going to watch this later on, I thank you for the people that stopped in and watched the show during the show. Bill, I thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Jack Victory, I thank you for coming on the show. We talked about ECW. We talked about characters. We talked about a driving school. I thank you for all that, man. I'm going to close the show. But before we close the show, Mr. Victory, can you tell fans where they can find you, where they can get merch? Do you have merch? Are you going to any conventions soon? What's next for Jack Victory?
The next one is the Russian Assassin breaks out the hood and puts that on October 25th. That's in Lutz, Florida. You know, Glory Days. You can find it. You know, if you do a Google search on Glory Days, I think it's Glory Days 3. And that's my next convention, and should be fun.
All right. There you have it. You heard from the man of many faces, Jack Victory from ECW. I thank you so much for coming on the show. Don't go anywhere. I'd like to talk to you off the show.
Okay.
Neither do you, Bill. Don't go anywhere. So, again, Huge Pop Entertainment, we're for life, guys.